Welcome back. Today we'll be looking at the topic monopoly. Uh, there are various markets in which firms operate, and we have looked at the one on the far extreme, which is a perfectly competitive market, and the other one, which is at the other extreme, is the monopoly. In between the perfectly competitive market and a monopoly, there are other market structures like oligopoly and monopolistic competitive markets. So today we'll be looking at monopoly market. Monopoly is a market in which there is only one seller of a product, one seller with many buyers, and the product the firm sells is such that no other firm can produce and sell that particular item, and it is not easy for other firms to join that market and produce the good. So if you look at the definition on the screen, you'll see that monopoly is a market structure in which there is a single seller and the product the firm sells has no close substitutes, and there are barriers to enter. I mean, it's difficult for new entrants to enter that particular space and produce that item and sell to the consumers. There are various reasons why firms, there are various reasons that produce a monopoly market, and I've listed some few here. One is ownership of strategic raw materials. For you to produce certain goods, you need very key materials in order to produce them. Those raw materials that are very important to the production of the item. Without it, you can't produce that. So if the source of that raw material is controlled by one person or one firm, then that one firm becomes the only producer of the item. Because there are certain goods that the raw material they use in producing them are so rare. They don't occur at many places. So those who control the raw material ends up controlling the production of the item. The second reason that gives rise to monopoly situation is exclusive knowledge of production techniques. For any item to be produced, you need knowledge of production, because you need to use a certain technique in order to produce an item. If that knowledge is exclusive to only one firm, then that firm becomes the only producer of that item. Let's take Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is produced from certain things, but all over the world. How many of us have seen a product that tastes exactly like Coca-Cola but produced by another company? No. So Coca-Cola has the exclusive knowledge in the production of that particular item. So they are the only people who can produce that particular product they are calling Coca-Cola. Not necessarily the name, but the product itself. Can any other firm produce a product that tastes exactly like Coca-Cola in content, not the name Coca-Cola? The soft drink that that Coca-Cola is difficult. So because the technique that they use to produce the Coca-Cola that soft drink is exclusive to the owners of Coca-Cola, who have exclusive access to the production process. Then we can also talk about patents. Patents refer to licenses granted to inventors and innovators, publishers, and copyright owners. See, the products we see around us come out of years of scientific research and development, and this involves huge sums of money. For instance, if you take a smartphone, companies didn't just get up a day and start producing it. You have to take years of scientific research, and this scientific research involves employing top class scientists and engineers, pay them for several years for them to research and come out with these products. So a lot of money goes into this scientific research and development. So if a firm invests so much into this research and able to come out with a product, it is fair that the firm is given exclusive right to use the technology and produce goods out of it, so that they can sell, make money, and recover how much they have invested in developing that product. So that exclusive permit that is given to a firm to produce an item for some number of years in order to recover how much they have invested in that product development is what is known as patents. So during the period that the firm is enjoying these patents, becomes the only producer of the item, and for that matter, a monopolist. A monopoly is the market. The firm that operates in that monopoly market is called the monopolist. Then we can also talk about government licensing. Government can decide that I just want one firm to produce an item in a country, so they'll just give license to that firm, and when that happens, the firm becomes the only producer of the item, and for that matter, the monopolist. Then we can also talk about the market size. Sometimes the market will not be large enough to entertain more than one firm, because if there are two firms, the firm may not be able to produce and sell at the lowest possible price. So we just need one firm to satisfy the market, because the market is not too large to contain more than one firm. So such a situation can also create what we call natural monopoly. Then limit pricing policy. This is a situation where existing firms can adopt certain pricing strategies to prevent potential competitors from entering its market. So if a firm wants to have exclusive access to the customers, it will adopt what we call limit pricing. What happens is that if it senses a potential competitor coming to compete with it for the customers, the existing firm will reduce its price, the price it sells its products. It will reduce it to the lowest minimum, such that the new entrant will start making losses from the word go. And nobody is in business to make losses. So if from the word go you start making losses and you don't know how long you are going to make those losses, then it's better you quit. So limit pricing policy can also result in a monopoly situation. Then a huge initial outlay. Yeah, it is very expensive to establish certain businesses. For instance, generation of electricity, or water supply system, headworks to let's say a city. Those are economic activities that involve huge initial investments, and because of the huge sums of money involved, it is not easy for people to easily establish those kind of businesses. So because of the huge money involved, or maybe only one person or a group of people can come together and establish one. And once they get established, they become the only producer of the item. For instance, if you take a Boeing aircraft manufacturing company in the US, because the establishment of an aeroplane building requires so much money and expertise. Only Boeing for a long time has been in the business of producing commercial aeroplanes. It was later that the Europeans also, in an attempt to prevent the US monopoly, decided to establish the Airbus. Even then, because of the huge money involved, it had to take several European countries to come together. So even the Airbus was not established by any private company. It was the European governments that they decided to establish that company. So you see that the Airbus, some of its factories are in Germany, others are in France and other parts of Europe. The next thing we'll be looking at is the demand facing the monopolies. We know that the monopolist is the only firm producing the item. Therefore, the firm faces the entire market demand. So the demand facing the firm is the market demand. Unlike a perfectly competitive market where the demand facing the firm is different from the demand facing the market, because in that case, the firm is just one out of many producers. But in the case of a monopoly, it is only one firm that is facing the entire market, one firm against many consumers. So in a monopoly situation, because the firm is the only producer, if the firm wants to induce consumers to buy more, it has to reduce its price. So the additional money the firm makes as it sells more by reducing its price is what we call the marginal revenue. So you can see that in a perfectly competitive market, in a monopoly market, I should say, the price of the commodity is higher than the marginal revenue. Because the marginal revenue, for the firm to sell more, he has to reduce the price, and the extra revenue you get by that reduced price as you sell more is the marginal revenue. So in a monopoly situation, the marginal revenue that the firm derives is always less than the price of the commodity, the market price of the commodity. And we use this simple equation to illustrate these points. If you see the second bullet there, you say P is equal to A minus BQ, where Q is the output. A and B are constant. So this is just like a line. It's a straight line, which is a two-dimensional graph with price on the vertical axis and quantity on the horizontal axis. So it's a straight line, and the y-intercept is the y-intercept is A, and the slope is Q. So this is the price. So this is how we define the price. Now, so if you fix in any quantity Q, it will give you the price P. So if, let's say, if A and B were to be, let's say, constant numbers like 3, 7, and you know the quantity Q, and you plug in into that formula, it will give you the price P. Now, if you want to derive the total revenue of the firm, what we do is to multiply price times quantity. So if we know P being defined by that equation in bullet 2, we just multiply that bullet 2, the right hand side, with Q. And when we do that, we have AQ minus BQ squared in bullet 4. So total revenue is equal to price times quantity, which is equal to A minus BQ all into bracket Q. So if you do the expansion, you have this. So this will give you the total revenue of the firm. If you want to find the average revenue will just be total revenue divided by output Q. That will give you average revenue, and the average revenue you can see is the same as the price of the monopoly. So for us to find the marginal revenue, all that we have to do is to find the change in total revenue as you sell more. So change in total revenue divided by change in output sold is equal to the margin. So the marginal revenue is just the slope. It's just the slope of the total revenue curve, or the rate at which the total revenue curve changes as output changes is the marginal revenue. So if you apply some small calculus to the total revenue, you have this function A minus 2PQ, because the marginal revenue is also downward slope. You can see that the ratio between marginal revenue and the Q is inverse, but the slope is twice that of the demand curve in this simple case. So in the demand curve, the slope is B minus B, but over here it is minus 2B, minus 2B. So, and because of the so this minus 2B, so what will happen is that the slope of the marginal revenue will be twice as steep as that of the demand curve, or the price of the firm. So when we as we move later, I'll show you the graph how it looks. But mathematically, that is it. So with respect to the cost curves, because the firm goes to the market to buy inputs like any other firm, the cost curves of a monopoly of a monopolist is the same as that of a perfectly competitive firm, because they all go to the same market to buy the same raw materials to produce. So in this course, our focus is to look at the short run equilibrium of the firm. At the what output level should the firm produce in the short run in order to maximize profits? There are a few conditions for profit maximization as far as monopolies is concerned. The first condition is that the marginal revenue must be equal to the marginal cost. We have seen why that is the case, because if you are a firm, your focus is to keep increasing output in a bid to what? Maximize your profit. But as you increase output, you produce more out. The extra output is at a cost, which we are calling the marginal cost. Now, when you sell that output, you get a revenue, which we are calling the marginal revenue. For you to be maximizing profit, then you have to keep increasing your output until such a time that the additional revenue you get from the additional output is equal to the additional cost you incur in producing that particular unit of output. So that's why you say marginal revenue must be equal to marginal cost. Then at the point where, or at the output level where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, the marginal cost must be rising, or the marginal cost must cut the marginal cost curve must cut the marginal revenue from the bottom, which is this is what is displayed in this diagram. So you can see the short run marginal cost curve and short run average cost curve there. Then we have the demand curve facing the firm, which is the D. Then the marginal revenue, which is twice as steep as the demand curve, is the MR curve. So that is the demand curve. So for the firms to be in equilibrium, we are saying that marginal revenue must be equal to marginal cost. So where the two intersect, that is where the marginal cost curve and the marginal revenue cost curve intersect. That is the point where the marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. And so that will occur at output XM. Now, if you trace when the equilibrium occurs at output XM, and you trace the price to the demand curve and you project it to the price axis, you see that when that output XM is produced, it will be sold at price PM. So the PM is the price at which the monopolist will sell its output, and the monopolist will produce the output XM. So this is how we determine the equilibrium or the short run profit maximization problem of the monopolist. A monopolist in the short run could, so let's look at how we can we can actually calculate whether a firm in the short run is making profits or making losses. If a firm's revenue is more than its cost, then we can say that the firm is making excess economic profit. But if the total revenue is exactly equal to total cost, then we say the firm is breaking even. And if total cost is higher than total revenue, then we say the firm is making economic losses. So a firm can be in short run equilibrium and at the same time breaking even, making losses, or even making economic profits. So you can easily calculate the total revenue the firm makes at equilibrium by multiplying price times output produced. So price times output produced will give you total revenue. Then for the total cost, we know that at output XM, the corresponding average cost of producing that output is AC. So if you multiply, we know that average cost is equal to total cost divided by output produced. So if you cross multiply and you multiply average cost times output produced, you derive the total cost. So from there you can compare the total cost to total revenue and see which one is bigger, and know whether the firm is making profit or loss or breaking even. So that is what this slide is about. So the profit of the firm is defined as total revenue minus total cost, and the total revenue is price the firm is selling the output times the quantity it is producing and selling, while the total cost is the average cost times the quantity of output the firm is producing. In this case, the Q in the profit function is the same as XM. I'm just using this one is just a general definition, but in this specific case relating to this diagram, the total cost is AC times XM, not Q, in this specific case. So in this specific case, you see that the firm is making profit because the price is higher than the average cost. Price is the same as average revenue. So if you compare the average revenue to the average cost, you see that the average revenue is higher than the average cost, so the firm will be making profit. economic profit or abnormal profit. Then we can also have a situation where the firm will be breaking even, and you shouldn't forget the fact that the equilibrium is always the situation where the marginal cost, the short run marginal cost, is equal to the short run marginal revenue. So wherever they occur, you project it to touch the demand curve, then you get the price at which the firm will sell the outputs. Then you project it to touch the short run average cost also to determine the level of average cost that the firm will incur by producing that output. So in this case, when you look at the diagram process, you see that the average cost is the same as the average revenue, which is the price. So the firm will be making, will breaking even, or will be getting zero economic profit, or it will be making normal economic profit. Normal economic profit is not the same as abnormal or supernormal profit. The normal economic profit is the profit that will keep the entrepreneur in business. So that is the return to the entrepreneur. So we can also look at the situation where the firm is actually making losses. In this case, you can see that when the firm is producing output Q XM, when the firm is producing output XM, the average cost is AC, which is higher than the price at which the firm is selling the product, which is PM. So the average cost of production is higher than the average revenue the firm is deriving from producing XM. So in this case, the total cost is higher than the total revenue, so the firm will be making economic losses. I think this should bring us to the end of this topic. Thank you very much.